Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right into one of the most fascinating and, honestly, terrifying events in modern cybersecurity, the Colonial Pipeline crisis. Today, we're breaking down exactly how a completely invisible digital breach managed to completely paralyze the physical world, bringing a massive part of a nation's infrastructure to a grinding halt.
I mean, really think about it. How does a single click dry up gas pumps all across the country? It literally sounds like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, right? But this wasn't fiction. A malicious actor sitting behind a keyboard, probably thousands of miles away, clicks a button, and suddenly, millions of everyday people cannot put fuel in their cars. We're talking about a direct, devastating connection between a quiet digital hack and immediate, chaotic physical fuel shortages.
Part 1. The Cyber Attack.
The escalation here is just breathtakingly fast. Day 1 starts with a whisper, an initial network breach by the hackers. It's stealthy. Nobody physically broke down a door. But by day 2, the trap springs. The attackers deploy ransomware, completely locking down the company's digital systems and demanding a massive payout. By day 3, the operators are forced to make a drastic, unthinkable decision. They hit the kill switch. They halt all physical pipeline operations just to contain the threat and prevent the infection from spreading to the actual industrial control systems. So in just 72 hours, we go from a quiet little intrusion to a complete operational shutdown.
Part 2. Defining critical infrastructure.
So to really grasp why this specific pipeline was such a massive target, we have to understand what critical infrastructure actually is. These are the fundamental systems serving a society. I want you to think of it like the cardiovascular system of the economy. Just like your body relies on arteries to pump blood and keep you alive, modern society completely relies on pipelines, power grids, and water systems. When a main artery is blocked, the entire body suffers. When critical infrastructure is compromised, absolutely everything else stops.
And just like that, an entire region is looking at a 100% halt of its fuel supply dependency. Imagine millions of businesses, emergency services, and families who rely entirely on that single flow of energy suddenly completely cut off by a single digital infection. This massive shift really represents the incredible stakes involved when we centralize so much of our daily lives on systems that can be taken down by a single line of bad code.
Part 3. Panic at the pumps.
Now let's compare two totally different realities here. Logistically speaking, the actual supply impact was just a temporary delay. The fuel was still sitting in tanks, right? It just wasn't moving for a few days. But the psychological impact? That was immediate. The second the news broke, people completely panicked. Consumer hoarding kicked in, with people literally filling up plastic bags and countless gas cans, which rapidly drained local gas stations. The wild irony here is that the invisible digital crime didn't immediately cause the dry pumps. The highly visible, self-inflicted chaos of panic buying did.
Part 4. The ransomware dilemma.
You really have to ask yourself, would you pay the ransom when the economy's arteries are blocked? Put yourself in the shoes of the decision makers for a second. You are bleeding millions of dollars. The public is absolutely panicking, and the government is breathing down your neck. Do you hand over millions to criminals, knowing for a fact that it funds future attacks, or do you stand your ground while the whole country grinds to a halt? It is an incredibly agonizing, almost impossible choice.
Operators are essentially staring down two incredibly unappealing options in this dilemma. On one hand, paying the extortion demand, handing over the cryptocurrency in the desperate hope that the hackers actually give you a working decryption key. On the other hand, refusing to pay, but that means navigating immense, prolonged recovery challenges and astronomical costs to rebuild your systems from scratch, all while your operations remain totally dead in the water. Both paths represent massive financial and operational agony.
Part 5. National Security Implications.
Because here's the sobering reality we're facing today. A cyber attack is no longer just an IT problem for the tech department to handle. When digital vulnerabilities become direct threats to our economic stability and national defense, the entire paradigm shifts. If an adversary or a criminal gang can cripple transportation and commerce without ever firing a physical weapon, then cybersecurity is national security. The health of a nation's defense is directly tied to the strength of its digital firewalls.
Part 6. Lessons for the future. So, what do we actually do about this? To survive and adapt in this modern threat landscape, businesses have to act. First, audit your digital vulnerabilities. You simply cannot protect what you don't know is exposed. Next, upgrade your cybersecurity infrastructure. Treat it as a core operational expense, absolutely not an afterthought. And most critically, develop robust recovery plans. You have to assume you will be breached eventually. How fast can you isolate the threat and restore backups without paying a ransom? These steps are completely non-negotiable now.
But what about you and me? Let's tie this back to the everyday consumer and what you should take away from this crisis on a personal level. First, we have to recognize our profound reliance on digital systems. Everything from our groceries to our gas depends on them. Second, and this is huge based on what we saw earlier, avoid panic buying during crises. Hoarding only accelerates the collapse of the supply chain. And finally, practice vigilant digital hygiene. Use strong passwords and two-factor authentication because, believe it or not, large-scale network breaches often start with just one compromised employee account.
We've walked through the timeline, the panic, those agonizing negotiations, and the massive security implications. But the ultimate takeaway really boils down to this. If a single digital breach can cause such profound physical panic and disruption, are we truly prepared for the next attack? The systems that run our world might be invisible, but their vulnerabilities are very, very real. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning and keep those digital doors locked.